We're at Gamescom 2016 to talk about Civilization 6, and we've got the art director cornered here, amongst a great host of leaders that you'll find in Civilization 6. So I thought I'd begin by asking that. So what sort of vision do you have for the art style of Civilization 6? You know, there's people have a lot of expectations on Civilizations, and you always like to tweak it a little bit. But what did you go into it with?
Well, the biggest change when we started prototyping early on, we were trying to find that style. Civilization 5 was a little bit more realistic, more of a satellite imagery. The characters and the leaders in the game were a little bit more realistically proportioned. When looking at the design, we worked very closely with the design to come up with this style. And we felt that the more stylized approach, similar to something that Civ 4 did, was much more beneficial to the game. It allowed us to be clear about leader personalities. It allowed us to push performances. And it gave us the ability to do much more interesting silhouettes on all the characters. So everything's readable from a distance as well, which most players don't play the game from like 3 hexes wide. So, you know, if we don't make it clear to the player and they have to zoom in or they have to click on something to find out the list of buildings there in something, we feel that we failed the fans. So that was one of the biggest influences on the way the style is now. I'm so excited to show some of the leader animations. We've trickled some of those out, and they really complement the new diplomacy quite well.
Very interesting. Another thing that's changed a lot and that will make people have to read the map a lot differently are the districts. How did you sort of deal with that in terms of the art and sort of putting all those little tiny things in there so they're readable to the player?
Oh, it's great for the art. The unstacking the cities has been one of the most interesting elements of the new gameplay, as well as the visuals. Now we're able, instead of cramming everything to this one hex and having just a list of the buildings you have in there, like, oh, I have a library, I have a campus. Now we're able to show those, and we're able to create these sprawling cities that actually, look like an area that you would see in real life. So you have your campus districts, you have your entertainment districts, and they all have their unique personality and silhouettes. So it's been great from the art side. I've been most excited about that. We've been able to expand out, and Wonders even have their own hex now, which is spectacular. We can actually have a very grand image now, and we even have the real-time Wonder movies now where we can show it build over time, similar to the Civ 4 cinematics that everybody really responded well to.
That is interesting, but there's also a lot more to pillage that, and then a lot more of things to sort of look at when it's not going that well.
Yes, well, I mean, clarity is the issue, so we want to make sure that, you got to be careful about how you protect your cities now. So that's, you don't want to leave everything open, but, you got to be more strategic about the way you place things. Because not only do you have to defend your city, but there's adjacency bonuses for every building. So if you find an area as you're exploring for your second city, and you see a group of mountains, you're going to probably tag that later as a great place for a campus. So the environment is more important than it's ever been in the past.
That is very interesting, and it also sort of puts that sort of starting position into sort of a much more important. It gives it even more importance than what it has had in the past. Even though great starting position is always a good place to start.
Yeah, I suspect the debate on whether to move your settlers right away from the start or to just take that first starting, it's probably going to be more interesting. We're going to hear some people have some more things to say about that.
I never dare do that because I know that it's going to, I just want to get started. I almost always take that first. And it's typically it rolls a pretty decent starting position.
Yeah, it's still a great way to start. And, your second city, as you're exploring more of the map, you're going to have a better idea of the lay of the land. So.
Yeah, very cool. I think we cannot do this interview without mentioning the lead. We've touched on the leaders, but it seems like you've really put a lot of effort in putting them out there with different videos for each of the civilizations and trying to highlight what they are and who they are and what. So what can you say goes into that choosing the first civilization and their leaders, because you're mixing it up in some of the civilizations this time?
Yes, we're going with big personalities. Big personalities as well as like leaders that complement the gameplay. So that's been one of the most important things. But we work very closely with the design, and there's been lots of leaders we've gone through. There's been some unexpected leaders, but we wanted to mix it up some. We wanted to have some leaders that everybody's familiar with. We wanted to have some leaders that haven't made an appearance in Civ in quite some time, and we wanted to have some brand new leaders for the people to play. So that's one of the reasons with the Barbarossa we just announced. We just thought he was a great fit for the game, especially because he doesn't like city-states. So he can create a lot more tension if you're trying to, be friends with all the city-states and get their favor. And he's on your continent, he might start mowing them down. You're going to have to decide whether you can let those city-states go or if you want to protect them and go to war with him.
That is an interesting aspect because their personalities does sort of influence your playthrough, and sort of who's in there sort of dictates what kind of game you're going to play. Is there an option to randomize those personality traits as well, or is it set?
No, absolutely. Every leader comes with a specific agenda. You'll get to know those the more you play the game. But there's also a second hidden agenda. So it's important to increase your spy network or have good diplomatic relations with them, so you can use that, and you can use those abilities and pit other AI players against each other. So it's really fun when you get to that level.
It is very cool. You've got a release date set. Give us the primer. When's it coming out, and where is it? PC, Mac, Linux? What's the rollout?
PC October 21st.
All right. Possibly something else later on then. Hopefully.
Well, we're working on that right now, so that's what we've got. So.
All right. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
There's no end to our imagination. And no limits to civilization.